Okay, I hope everyone had a good day at work today or whatever you did today. I hope you trust that you had a productive day. Tonight we're going to be discussing the chapter 10 of the book of Acts. But before we do that, for those who weren't here last night, can some of you give a quick review of what we studied on last evening? Don't everybody be bashful. What did we talk about yesterday?
Saul.
Saul. What about Saul?
He was converted.
Okay. What type of person was Saul originally?
He was a slaughter Christian.
Right. We also talked about light, correct? What about light? How should our lives be about light? Okay, okay. Good, so keep in mind, on Saturday we give a review, so remember this stuff, so when we do a review, we'll be prepared. Okay? Tonight we're going to talk about unlocking doors, unlocking different doors. And we'll be taking our text from Acts chapter 10. So if you can, if you're in your Bibles, let's turn to Acts chapter 10. Some of us are familiar with this particular passage of Scripture already regarding Cornelius, regarding Peter, and those characters. But let's take a deeper look tonight. I will start the reading at verse number 1. There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of who was called the Italian resident, a devout man, and one who feared God with all of his household, who gave alms generously to the people, and prayed to God always. About the 9th hour of the day, he saw clearly in a vision an angel of God coming in and saying to him, Cornelius. And when he observed him, he was afraid. What is it, Lord? And so he said to him, your prayers and your alms have come up for a memorial before God. Now send men to Joppa and send for Simon, whose surname is Peter. He is lodging with Simon, a tanner, whose house is by the sea. He will tell you what you must do. And when the angel who spoke to him had departed, Cornelius called 2 of his household servants and a devout soldier from among those who waited on him continuously. So when he had explained these things to him, he sent them to Joppa. Okay, let's stop there. What do you know so far about Cornelius, this character Cornelius so far? What have we gathered from this passage so far about this gentleman?
He was a devout man and he feared God.
Okay, he feared God. When you say he feared God, what are we saying he feared God? Someone says, talk louder. He respected God. He wasn't scared of like a kid who's scared of lightning. That's not fear in this tense. This is saying that he respected God. Okay? He respected God. He feared God. He respected God. What else?
And his household did also.
And his people did also. So we have Cornelius and the persons in his house respected God. That's a lesson right there. If someone lives with you and you believe in God, you ought to have enough in you to show God to the others too. Okay? His household was feared God. He feared God. What else?
He was prayerful.
He was prayerful. He was prayerful. Okay? He prayed to God. Okay? What else?
He was a man that was in charge. And by that, he was one that had a position in the military where he was over a set of men.
Okay. So he had rank, he had a title, he had a job. Okay? He had rank, he was a supervisor. Okay, we'll get into that in a couple seconds. What else do we know about Cornelius?
He was generous.
He was generous. Okay. How do we know that? He was generous.
He gave gifts, he gave to people.
Okay, that's correct. You're correct. Anything else about Cornelius that we know so far? Sister Corn?
Also, he was a leader. He was a leader in the army because he was a centurion, and evidently he was a leader in his home because we see what they too obeyed. He was a serious man. He was serious about his relationship with God. He loved him and he respected him.
That's
He
right.
honored him. And
That's-
he wanted to get to know his character.
That's right. And we'll find more about that in a couple of minutes in the class.
And he was not a Jew.
He was not, that's what I was getting at. He was not a Jew. Keep in mind, as you see here, Cornelius was the first non-proselyte Gentile to be baptized. Keep in mind, he was not the first Gentile to be baptized. How do I know that, Brother Jeremy? Glad you asked. In Acts chapter 2, there were Gentiles who were baptized in Acts chapter 2, if you read that. But the reason why this is important, non-proselyte Gentile, was the Gentiles who were baptized previously to Cornelius, they went through the circumcision, as the Jews did. They had to be circumcised and follow Jewish laws, and they became baptized. But Cornelius didn't do that. He didn't do that. He was just a Gentile, didn't have to go through the Jewish tradition of circumcision. Keep that in mind, okay? That's important. Also, you said earlier he prayed to God. Then he also was a God-fearing man, and he was centurion. The word centurion in that era was that Cornelius was in charge of at least 100 soldiers. He was in charge of 100 soldiers. So he had rank, he was like in our vernacular today, a general, a lieutenant, someone who had people under him. So also, Cornelius gave money to the poor. He gave alms to the poor. He was a very generous man. Okay, what you say? Okay, before, we know he ended up being baptized, but he prayed to God. He gave alms. He feared God. He was a good working man. Prior to him being baptized, was he saved?
No.
Okay, let's keep that in mind. For those who might say, oh, Cornelius was a top-notch guy. He was a good man. You can be, that's a lesson for us. You can be good in the world's eyes. We can be good and do good things, but until we follow God's command and are baptized for the remission of sin, we all are still lost, okay? Cornelius had to do that, okay? Now, let's go back to our Bibles. And let's find out about Peter. Someone can read for me, please. Let's read verses 9 through 16. Let's find out who is Peter. Someone please read verses 9 to 12, and someone can read 13 through 16.
On the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. And he became very hungry and would have eaten, but while they made ready, he fell into a trance and saw heaven open, and a certain vessel descended unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at 4 corners and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of 4-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air.
Okay, verse 13 through 16, please.
And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean.
Keep that in mind.
And the voice spake unto him again, the second time, What God hath cleansed, that call not thou common. This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven.
Good, thank you. Remember last night I told you guys about the number 3 and the significance of that number? We see that again as 3 times Peter was told to do something. 3 times. Again, remember three yesterday was concerning Saul conversion. 3 days going was blinded. And we see here the number 3 again. Again, numbers have meaning in the Bible. And again, 3 means what? We see the word 3, it means what? Number 3? Completion. Okay. All right, let's get back to Peter, okay? Peter was about to eat. He went into a trance or a dream, right? And what was the dream all about?
It was about a sheep, 4 sides, coming down from heaven with unclean meat on it. And obviously, when Peter saw that, he didn't want to have any parts to do with it because of the culture of the Jews. They were not to have, according to the law, Jewish law, they were not to have anything to do with unclean animals.
Okay, let's leave it there. Let's look at some tidbits about Peter. Peter, as we know in Acts chapter 2, he delivered the first gospel sermon. He was a teacher, he was a preacher. He was one of the 12 apostles, one of the original 12 apostles. He was of Jewish heritage, and he also was the brother of Andrew. His profession by trade was a fisherman. He only shared the gospel or the good news with the Jews. Okay, all that is significant. Cornelius was a non-Jew, correct? You had Peter, who was a Jew. Okay, let's break it down into our current, make an analogy with America. Let's say Peter was a white guy and Cornelius was a black guy in 1930. Okay? You see how significant that would be for someone like Peter to communicate and to show himself to someone he originally thought was beneath him. Okay? Let's use the American analogy there and how tough that would be for Peter as a Jew and how tough it would have been for someone white to go and teach somebody who was an African American in 1930. Okay? It was uncommon. Many thought that it was beneath them to even talk to blacks and to figure them to be equal. Okay, so we have that example in today's society. Okay, so let's keep this analogy we can use to see the dynamic that is going on. So we already described the dream Peter had. He had a dream about unclean animals, unclean things. Okay, what information from that dream that Peter had that was different than what he previously experienced in his ministry? We mentioned the unclean, the uncommon, and what else? What other factors in that dream he dreamt about that was unusual?
He told the Lord no.
I mean, hear you, Sister Wood? Right. He had to teach all that. But prior to that, it was just his. It was just the Jews, right?
Yeah.
But now, God told him to do what? Teach others. Teach all, even the Gentiles. Okay? Like I said earlier, eat clean or uncommon. It went against the common practices of the Jewish culture to eat anything unclean or uncommon. Okay, if you have time, you can read Deuteronomy 14, and it goes into details of that Jewish culture and the law that said they couldn't eat certain things. It's very detailed. So when he had that dream where he said you could eat things that were uncommon, and that were unclean and common, that was a shock to him. And he also had to share the gospel with a Gentile. This goes against everything that he was taught as a Jew. Okay? Was he open to doing that when he first heard that dream? No. Okay. And again, we saw that last night with Saul. Even though Ananias. You even saw that last night. So I think we have a pattern here of we might not be receptive immediately, but we will come to ourselves and follow God's will. Okay. these are applications to Christians, we as Christians, that we are called to be different and not to conform to the common practices of our culture. Let's go back earlier. I had a definition on the board about being different. What is the definition of being different? One definition is the ability to stand out as an individual. Another definition, not to conform to the normal standards of the majority that is against God's will. That's being different. That's not following the crowd. That's not being part of the cool crowd. And not part of being part of the majority. To be cutting edge, exciting, or extreme. To be different. You focus on yourself, on the individual, rather than the whole. Those are some general definitions of being different. Is being different a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing.
Well, let's both ways. How? Give me some positive and negative. Let's have a little conversation here. How is it being different positive? How is it being positive? Anybody?
Think for yourself.
Okay, think for yourself. Who said that? Okay, think for yourself. That's being different. That's a good thing about being different. You're not part of a group mentality. You have thinking of yourself. All of us had to do that when we became Christians. You had to think for yourself. It wasn't a group decision. You made a decision to walk down front and be baptized. Okay, that's one example. What else? What's another positive, sis?
Speaking out against somebody that's gay, the gay thing.
Okay.
Speak out against is not a very popular thing. The Christian should take a stand on speaking out of it. It might make you seem different, but we are different.
Right. Speaking out against things. Right. What did I say? Yeah. Not to conform to another. Even though it might be the law of the land today, law of the land doesn't oversee the law of God.
Amen.
So, for example, you can't say, I'm following God's law by speeding, because that doesn't oversee, God does teaches us to follow the law of the land. So if you call speeding, you can't use the excuse, well, I was doing God's will. Okay? But if someone tells you, okay, brothers and sisters, you have to have a gay marriage here at Cashmere Gardens, that's against God's will. That might be the law of the land, but that doesn't succeed God's will. Okay? Someone else had their hand up.
Another positive about being different is that you don't go along to get along.
Right.
You stand for something instead of falling for everything.
Right. Now, sometimes it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough to stand by yourself. It's not an easy thing to always stand by yourself at times. Don't go along to get along. If it's something where you have some convictions about, all of you have convictions. All of you stand for something. So when someone tries to sway you or whatever, you have grounded beliefs already, and you should stick to those beliefs. Okay, anyone else want to comment on that?
And I just want to inject this too. You brought this up last night. When we come together, Bible classes and worship, we're all for glorifying God. When we go outside of this building, we should be all for glorifying God too. That's daring to be different. The law of the land says now, not just going into it about the homosexuality. We should stand against that because we know that's not God.
And not only that one, there's other laws too. So I don't want to get bogged down just on that one. There's plenty that we can look at as Christians and be against. Shacking up, cohabitation, that's against God's will. But we should have that same mindset like we have against homosexuality, that same fervor against that. Okay? Okay. Anybody else who want to come in on that? Just
Don't believe in God.
Ma'am?
Don't believe in God.
That's being different.
Yeah.
And that's not a positive difference, but that is a difference. Some people don't even believe in God. They're being different, but that's not a positive stand to take. But it is being different. Okay. What are some negative connotations of being different? What are some negative connotations of being different? Because both of you all said it depends. It's positive and negative. It's good and bad. So what are some bad